KO here. Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila, where we are working to inspire positive, radical social evolution by uniting mission-driven humans. I am so excited today to have this conversation. I'm welcoming the entire team of People of All Colors Succeed. This is a 501c3 coming out of Kansas City, Missouri, POAC. They are working to close the gap between injustice and equality for all people to spark courageous conversations for change. I love it. They're getting into our schools, to our young guns, to get to our little guys before they become adults and create and facilitate some of these life skills around emotional intelligence, finance, working together, so many amazing things. So this is a great conversation of what they have going on, what they're doing, and then I will be competing on their behalf at the Do More Charity Challenge on September 10th. So if you're in Castle Rock, come down to CrossFit Loop, watch us compete. We're working to raise some money for POAC and get them some cash so we can further facilitate their amazing programming. I really appreciate the entire POAC team. I love what you guys are doing. Go see what they have going on, get involved, and cheers to making the world a better place, one intentional conversation at a time. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts and look for this video on YouTube. Cheers.
Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Questioning a better way, one gracefully disruptive conversation at a time.
Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila. I am so excited today. We have a 501c coming in from Kansas City, Missouri. If you've listened to Turmeric and Tequila, you know I'm a passionate human about fitness. I've recently jumped back into CrossFit, and I will be competing once again for the Do More Charity Challenge coming up here on September 10th, I believe it is. And if you're familiar with that event, we pick a team, and then that team competes on behalf of a charity. And this event is amazing. I think it's about 5, 6, 7 years old, and they've raised over $1.5 million that have gone back to all of the different causes. And it's cool because if you've ever worked in the nonprofit world, you know that a percentage of every dollar that comes in kicks back to administration or whatever. But this actually, every dollar that comes in goes back to the charity. So it's an extraordinary event with a lot of money going in the right direction. And I'm excited to be back in it and competing on behalf of POAC, People of All Colors Succeed, and they are associated with the Community Banks of Colorado. But in a nutshell, we've got the whole team here, including the founder, and their basic bio. I'm going to let them do the full form one because it's a really extraordinary mission and what they're doing, and it's right on brand for Turmeric and Tequila, our listeners, our community. But POAC Succeed is working to close the gap between injustice and equality for all people to spark courageous conversation for change. So diversity and inclusion, you know we're here for that. Without further ado, you all, welcome to Turmeric and Tequila. I don't know who wants to start us off, but give us a quick intro on the mission and the why.
Well, thank you for having us on your show. My name is Jamie Grayson, Executive Director, Founder of POAC Succeed. We started our journey in 2019 for the sole purpose to help the next generational leaders. So a K through 12 focus. We think it's important to teach the young students the importance of emotional intelligence and also align them with opportunities throughout the community through our internship program that we offer as well here in Kansas City. I'll let my other teammates introduce themselves.
Yeah, I'm Alexandria Rodriguez, aka Lexi. I am the president of POAC Succeed. Obviously, as a small nonprofit, we wear many hats. I also am a program facilitator. I do the finances and a lot of other things. But my main mission in the nonprofit is just kind of let students know that there's not a linear line to success. Just share my own story of kind of where I got to and let them know that, you know, how I got to where I am is I picked a lot of different paths and it led me to where I am today, and just kind of sharing that with them.
All right, I'll go next. I am Marissa Grayson. I'm our program facilitator here at POAC. Just like Lexi said, we all wear lots of hats and do a lot of things every day. My mission and my goal for my position is to just really inspire these kids and let them know, like, there's a whole world out there, all the possibilities of what you can do. It's really, really incredible what students and everybody has up in their just massive minds. You know, these kids, they have these conversations and they are so excited to share what they see the world as. And it's truly inspiring. And that's why I'm here. That's why I love this job and this position.
And I am Jenna Scott. I am the Vice President of Community Impact for People of All Colors Succeed. And my main job is to connect the community to our amazing students. So we all do a lot of things, like Lexi said, all of us are program facilitators. We get to spend time with all of our wonderful students, but I get to spend time helping the Kansas City and the region understand how important growing the minds of these young kids is, and growing the skill development that they all need to be successful employees, successful citizens, and successful humans. So we get to do a lot of fun things with our students, and it's so fun to watch the two worlds of business and education come together.
Thank you for that. I love it. I can tell each of you individually are mission-driven humans, so I know that supplements the team agenda exponentially. I always get really excited about really any 501c3 out there, heading towards making this world a better place, but particularly around our young people, because I'm 41 and I didn't necessarily grow up with social media, and I know the pressures I had in middle school and high school and whatever. And especially being, a privileged white person, it's a whole different experience. But now I see our kids with a whole different, environment with social media 24/7 and the marketing come out. And that's kind of why I started Turmeric and Tequila, was what I called graceful disruption, disrupt some of the noise that's out there. But I would really love to hear how individually, maybe some of you guys as young people kind of grew up, and why you're so excited about this to supplement the curriculum. I really wish that there was more life skills in our middle school, high school, even elementary school curriculums around finance, around relationships, around nutrition. I'm here for algebra, but I don't know if that's the most applicable situation. I think there's an app for that. I hope so. Anyways, math was not my jam. We were 100% an athlete, but it's the life skills. I was so fortunate to have sports, because that's where I experienced a lot of diversity and inclusion, and I probably played the two least diverse sports in the world, lacrosse and CrossFit. But it was so cool to then travel the world and be exposed to different cultures, like literally be in people's homes and see how, they baked bread different or brush their teeth different, or, I would call them my varsity life pro tips, like stuff you wouldn't think about, but you just pick up along the way. Like that supplemented my journey in my education as an adult. Tell me a little bit about it, you guys as young people, and why maybe you can see now in reflection, like this spark of being passionate about diversity and inclusion started very young.
Well, I'll go ahead and say that sports is something that's been heavy in my background. Former collegiate football player. My twin brother and I played college football together. My older brother, Marissa's dad, ran college track, 3-time track All-American.
Hey. And
my younger brother played college baseball. So sports was something that I noticed that it broke down many barriers when it comes to interacting with people. I often tell we had athletes from Compton, California, Biloxi, Mississippi, two different worlds, but it took all of us to move the ball forward. The goal of our sport that we played was we come together as a collective, we understand the plays, you execute the play. It's the same thing with the brand that we created with POAC. POAC to me, it's defined as community. It takes people of all colors, all backgrounds, all skill sets, economics doesn't matter, to move things forward. So I, like you, am a disruptor. We want to challenge people to disrupt the way that we sometimes were grown up to believe.
Yeah.
I think Lexi said it best earlier. Success is not a straight line. It can take you different directions and still lead to something that you're passionate about and enjoy. And a lot of times it doesn't have to do anything with race or, color at all. So that's kind of where I landed with this organization. And if any others want to share, feel free.
Yeah, I think, my background personally, I think is a unique story. Just growing up, I was a survivor of child sexual abuse. So that was a really big barrier for me. And, saying out loud takes that power away for me. And, I grew up really similar to a lot of the students that we work with in the charter school, and coming from a high school that didn't have a lot of opportunities, right? There just wasn't, to your point, those life skills. Mm-hmm. And because of that, it led me astray. So after high school, I got my esthetician license because I didn't know what I wanted to do. It was like, I did my math, I did my English, and it was like, I didn't have that exposure piece. So I got my esthetician license, and the day that I got it, my certificate, I was like, well, what am I going to do with this? How am I going to really make a living? Because, they didn't give that business piece to that certificate. They're like, well, here's your knowledge on how to do it, but They didn't teach you how to build the business part of it. So I joined the Air Force because I was like, I want to get out of where I am, right? I didn't want to live in the city that I was at. And I went to the Air Force. So that gave me a lot of great life skills that I needed just to be disciplined and get out of the neighborhood that I was at. Then after that, I went to school, and I went to school for nursing. Then I got to anatomy, and I was like, this is not for me. Then I went to school for Spanish, and then I was like, well, this is silly because there's a lot of native Spanish speakers. So I don't know if that's really the course. And then I was really fortunate. My dad started a business, and he was like, hey, I don't know how to do this QuickBooks thing. You work with this accountant and you figure it out. I'm like, okay, Dad. I'm like, in college, I guess I'll help you out. And then I ended up realizing how much this accountant makes. And I was like, man, this is what I want to do. And I ended up realizing I was really good with numbers. So that's what I ended up graduating, a little bit non-traditional at the age of 24. I ended up having my first child my last semester of school. So that was really stressful, having a 2-month-old baby, trying to do my finals. But I did it, and so I think my biggest thing for students is letting them realize the exposure piece, because I would have never picked accounting as a degree for me, but because I was exposed to it, that's what I want students to realize, is that, our internship program for students is a little bit different because we don't let them pick what they think they want. We do a youth science assessment and we say, hey, this is the opportunity. These are your skills that you're good at. And this is what could fit for you. And let us expose you to different elements that you could be good at, and find something that you could end up loving. And even at the age of 33, I end up switching careers to something completely different, and it's still okay. And I'm still learning what skills and strengths that I have, and I'm leaning into those things. So, I love that I get a little piece of everything, because I get to connect with students that I feel like I see myself in, and I get to give little nuggets that I felt like, man, I wish I would have had this, I wish I would have had a mentor, because I was one of those students that I did really well in school. So no one really connected with me because I did well. They're like, well, she's getting A's and B's. She doesn't need help. But I really did seek a mentorship, and I didn't have that. So I really look at students that, yeah, they're doing well, but that doesn't mean that they don't need a mentor. They really still need someone to hone in on them and still be a support, even though they're doing well. So those are the kind of students that I look for, and just be a support to anybody and everyone that wants to be. So, I love that piece.
I love the exposure.
Yeah, that's what we liked about POAC. To what Lexi said kind of about that strong kid in the classroom, I kind of think that all four of us have that background of the face that everyone has to put on to kind of get through their day. For me, the students that I'm looking forward to connecting to. So actually started with the company about a month ago. So we haven't actually been in the classroom yet. So all of mine is going to be future goals, but I'm really looking forward to meeting those students who are kind of like us, they go through so much to be at school every day, and you would never know it. They're just there to make sure they're getting their grades and can get through their day and get back home. And it's sort of relatable, just on a different scale. I actually came from a 2-parent household. My mother passed away when I was 9, though. So in the really hardcore years of my life, it was a 1-parent household. And my dad did a phenomenal job at raising us girls. We had that typical teenage girl kind of, oh, Dad, you're ruining my life. But in turn, when I look back, he did a phenomenal job raising us, and he trusted us with a lot. And that's what a lot of these students go through. I mean, their parents sometimes are going to work at 6 a.m. and not getting off until late at night. And it's like, these are kids. This is just insane. So I'm super, super excited to see how relating with them and just digging deep and seeing where they are going to go in life is I can't wait. I can't wait, honestly.
And for me, I kind of grew up very lucky. My parents did divorce when I was a young kid. I was only about 7 years old when they divorced, but my parents co-parented me fantastically. My teachers in high school would be like, oh, how long have your parents been married? And I'm like, they haven't been together since I was 7. So, I kind of had that trick up my sleeve, but my parents always told me from day one, you can do anything you want to, however you want, as long as you're willing to work for it. And so I've always had that really gritty work ethic and being willing to just put in the time and effort, and seeing what can come out of it. But I always attribute my big heart, if that's what you want to say, to being involved in nonprofits to my older sister. She is 6 years older than me, but she's an educator. She taught kindergarten and first grade for a long time, and then now is teaching sixth graders. So her whole life has been about students and kids. And when I was young, she basically taught me that everybody has a story. Everybody, is someone. Everybody deserves to be said hello to in the hallway. So in high school, I graduated with like 425 people, but I could probably walk down the hallway and tell you 400 of their names. So I just loved getting to know them and their stories and who they are. I have a very heavy athlete background as well. I played softball, I swam, I ran track, I pole vaulted, I triple jumped. If there was a sport, I was playing it. And so I also got that deep team effort and how you see how everybody's strengths come together and how we work to build the skills that we don't have, by focusing on what we do have and how we can help each other out to get to the end of the game, whatever that looks like. And in this life, it's an infinite game, but we're working on trying to help those kids get to the same place where they see the success and they know how to break it down. And I just love watching them get it. It's the coolest thing to get to see somebody really understand that I can do this, even though I've been told my whole life, maybe I can't.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you guys sharing your stories and your backgrounds. Everybody that I have come on, I'm always interested in, whether it's a nonprofit or for profit or service or whatever. I'm always excited about the company or the mission, but really it's the humans behind the cause. And when you can share your story and what you're doing and why you're in pursuit of what you're pursuing, I think that's where the audience can really connect. And so I appreciate you going to some vulnerable space and sharing more in depth of your story, because I know that will really hit home with a lot of the listeners and in turn, really connect with their hearts. I do now want to talk about the charity and all you guys have going on. I would love to hear the starting point, because the 501c is 501c3 is no joke, and it's hard to get stuff going. And then, believe it or not, it's actually hard to give money away and to infiltrate with the right connections and strategic partnerships and programs. And then you build a curriculum. It's a lot of moving parts. And on the flip side, if you can get in it and go with it, obviously, as all four of you had said, it's more than rewarding because you get to see impact right at hand. And I mean, it's just 100% soul fuel, particularly with our young people. But give me a little bit about the beginning, because I know how hard it is. What kind of fueled the journey, and just tell us how you guys started.
Well, I think for me, starting this with a vision to see, all people have success, from all backgrounds, genders, races. I oversaw, so my prior career prior to the POAC launch was in the financial industry. So I oversaw the entrepreneurial side of the banks that I ran. So I had the blueprint of, because that's what I did for 25 years, working with businesses and how to start, grow, and sustain. So when it came to putting this POAC business model together, I basically pulled it off the shelf and just recreated it for how we can use it in our community. Finding a niche that would actually generate a feel for me every day to wake up and go after. Mm-hmm. Youth development was always that thing. I was mentored, so I wanted to give back in a way to mentor the next generation. So putting a nonprofit together, it can be challenging. I think there's a gap of understanding nonprofit in itself, because people think that nonprofit's it's a charity. Mm-hmm. It's a business still. So we have business levers that we operate. So we actually utilize grants as a 501c3, corporate partnerships, which is, something that's charitable giving for them, school partnerships, and then we have fundraisers that we operate. So there's 4 levers that we pull in order to make our business go forward. So it's been fun just because every lever that we pull, it's a unique pull. So it takes a different, mindset to go after certain pockets of our community.
I think that's really great intel. If anyone's listening that has aspirations to start a 501c3, I think there is so much misconception around how important that business side is. And I even say this to like potential influencers. I read something where like there's young people now, they say, what do you want to be? And it used to be like doctor, lawyer, and now it's influencer. So that's a whole other podcast. But I even tell them like that you need to approach most things like a business, and you got to understand the inner workings of where's money coming in, where's money going out, account, like all of that still exists. You're just, the mission's a little bit different. So I appreciate you pointing that out. And I think what you guys do with that mentorship, like finding someone you can trust to help guide that journey, is so critical. I'm even excited to see the NBA and our large professional athletic situations lean in. The NBA is far more progressive than most of the other professional situations, but to really give like our young athletes these tools, because you're a 0-year-old with now $50 million. And of course, all heck is going to break loose. So I think that's good to kind of have like this business conversation early. And again, in the curriculum of our young people, so you can get, a hold of your finances very, very early. And then that business mindset can set in. Did you guys have any experience early on as far as like business or money, or something that kind of made you like shift gears to get more of a business mindset?
No, I have always had that, because that's been my space. So I've always operated, even as a high school kid, I always had a liking towards entrepreneurship. People see what I do today, what we do as a team today, but this is something that's not brand new. I've been on this mission for community, enhancements since 1990s. Back when I was in high school. So I think it boils down to a word, that I often reference, is intentionality. We have to be intentional of trying to grow communities. Mm-hmm. We have to be intentional of providing access, exposures, and opportunities for students who don't have it. Some of the underrepresented communities that are out there. A lot of the businesses, they tout that they want to do certain things. However, it doesn't align with their intentions. So you have to be intentional about trying to impact the youth that we say we care about, and then go actually do the work. And that's one thing I will say about our team that I'm very proud of, is that I oftentimes say, I don't need a big team. I need the right team. So with the right mindset, with the right intentions, because it's not about us. Even though I created this is not about me. This is about the legacy that we're looking at behind when we're all gone one day, that hopefully that we plant enough seeds and the next generational leaders that they carry this thing forward. So,
yeah. And I think, I've been with Jamie since the beginning. So Jamie and I both worked at Mazuma, and he kind of told me about this vision about POAC. And I was like, you have to bring me with you. I want to be here with you. I'll help you stand the company up, obviously with an accounting background. If you're going to start a nonprofit, you need someone with some financial background. Having your books right and doing it right the first time is key. If you want a successful business, if you want a successful nonprofit, getting your books right the first time is absolutely key to success. So obviously, I think Jamie was very intentional about saying, yeah, come on, if you want to come join, let's do this together. So getting those right players, to Jamie's point, having those team players that have the right skill sets to make sure that your vision can come to life.
And I'll add to that a little bit, because with me having my athletic background, everything I do, I think like an athlete still, as a former athlete, because I've never been on the sideline. I've always been in the game. And this is, as a nonprofit, you have to be in the game. You can't stay on the sidelines waiting for somebody to do the work. You got to roll your sleeves up every single day and go do the work, because, the livelihoods of small businesses, successes or failures, is based upon the acumen of those who are running this game. And if you don't have that skill set, understanding, mindset, that's the reason why a lot of businesses don't succeed after 3 to 5 years. So we all have to play between the lines, just like you about to play in this CrossFit challenge. So
there you go. Look at that tie-in. But isn't that the goal? That's the hard part. But if you've ever, I'm assuming everyone's worked in the corporate world, and you can get up, and this is kind of why podcast and so much has fueled my fire. Is it's great to, make money, have security as you get older, but it's kind of like the why, like, what am I actually doing here? What am I leaving behind? What's going, does any of this actually matter? And I think our kiddos are connecting to that questioning early on, and deciding what they want to do. And as much as I kind of laugh at our young people who saying, I want to be an influencer, I do champion the mindset of like, maybe what you're going to do doesn't exist yet. So you have to like, let some of this go, but just kind of stay in that heart space of like, Jamie, you're saying like early on, this was in your mission. Like you were called to do this very early on and you were clear on it. So I think that's a really noteworthy point of, you might not have a label or a brand or a clear mission on what the next step is, but you're called or you're moving towards something. And oftentimes I think that's enough. You need planning, you need the business side, and you need all these things. But really, if you're unsure and you're younger, or maybe you're older, like 33, I've pivoted many times. I think you just got to keep following the heart, as cliche as that sounds. Coming from that corporate world, did you guys all kind of have corporate experience where it's kind of like, okay, this is good, it's cushy, but like what's happening here? Like, what am I actually doing? What matters?
Absolutely.
Go, Marissa, tell us about it.
Well, I was actually in banking also. And I mean, there really isn't, for me, there wasn't much to take home from that. Both of my parents were educators, so I saw the impact on the people's lives they had. And I mean, I had my couple of regulars at the bank that would come in and say, well, how's it going on Tuesday? But there was never anything that really made me feel like if I was gone today, that they would say, she changed my life, or she helped me make this decision, besides, keep an extra $10 in there. So when Jamie asked if I wanted to come on board, and Jamie and Lexi both, they really kind of talked to me about what they truly did. Obviously Jamie is my uncle, so I saw the outside bubble, but then I met with Lexi and she described the day to day. And I mean, it was just right up my alley, the not being in one office all day and actually getting to talk to people and find like-minded people who are on the same mission. That's part of my why. I mean, yes, I do have kids and they are my why, but actually feeling like I'm out there doing the work to make an impact is more than rewarding for me. So,
yes. And I would say, I think women, it's always a conversation, do you work? Do you manage the kids? How do you balance whatever? And it's a different conversation for parents, for male parents. But I would challenge, and I don't have kids, so I'm careful to speak on things that I don't have true experience in, but I do have 3 younger brothers that are absolute wild animals. And I was the oldest, so I feel like I got the parenting out of the way early. But I think walking an example and leading by example, and you filling your own cup and then being that example for your kids, I think is really a massive way to lead. Like, I think that's just such a positive thing. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Well, thanks. I appreciate
that. Gold stars. All right. So tell me, you guys, let's unpack POAC, POAC. Like, give me some of the examples of like the curriculum, the initiatives. Like, what are we doing on the daily, or what's some big stuff coming up?
Go ahead, Lexi. Kick that off.
Yeah. So, next week we start schools. So we have 2 kind of programs that we run. We have our real world learning program, which we have 3 charter schools we're partnered with right now in the Kansas City area. So our program kind of on that looks like we have a 3-week onboarding, and that's where we really prep the students for their internship program. So we do a 3 weeks where we're teaching those life skills. We're teaching, what does it look like when you go to your internship? What does it look like to be employable? How do you do a signature line? How do you network? How do you build a LinkedIn page? All those skills that you wish you would have learned. And then we send our little babies off to their job placements. So we're really excited about that. We start that Monday. And then our other side of our other program is our equity program that we're partnered with about 6 schools in the school districts here in Kansas City. And that we're really focused on emotional intelligence. So we're teaching kids to be self-aware, to self-regulate, to help identify their emotions. And how do we teach them to connect to one another? We kind of feel like that's a lost art. How do we help them communicate to one another and teach each other to kind of like each other? Because it's been kind of a hostile environment, and a lot of schools are struggling right now. If I know you're not from the Kansas City area, but man, schools here have been in the news lately, just one problem after another, schools getting sued, and we're here just to kind of be a piece to help schools to fix those issues.
That's amazing. How do schools find you guys? Like, tell me a little about that process. 'Cause I'm assuming the need is overwhelming. How do you guys choose who you're going to partner with, and how does that setup happen?
Honestly, I word of mouth. Jamie, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's really word of mouth. we have a pretty good social presence on social media platforms, whether it be LinkedIn, Facebook. Most teachers live on Facebook. Most businesses are on LinkedIn. So those two worlds we bring together. However, one of the things we talk about with the schools, because this just resonates with me, is what are your intentions? We're not a check the box type of organization. We do want to come in and help be a value add to create a cool, better school experience for all students, not just some students, all students. So I want to understand from school leadership, how intentional are you about creating the change you say you want?
Yeah.
And I say that because, this is life and death for some students.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the mental stressors that these students share with us, obviously we know the suicide rate with teens today are out the roof.
Mm-hmm.
So to have us as a resource, it's important enough to me to make sure that their intentions are pure of why we're there.
That makes sense. How do you guys, this is kind of a random question, and I intentionally try and stay around my young humans just to understand their world and see, what consumer packaged goods they're consuming or how they wear their clothes or what their conversation is. And because like you just said, it's gone from, marketing and awareness and positive impact to life and death. Like it's gotten so serious that this awareness is very heightened. How do you intentionally stay connected to young people or what's going on in schools? Like, is there something you guys do to really stay tapped into the trend setting tip of like elementary school or middle school or high school?
Well, I'll tell you, so since we started our journey, we've impacted over 4,000 students. So as they go through our program, they become, we call it gold standard ambassadors.
Okay.
So there's a sea of ambassadors that we created their own community, their own network that they can tap into, you lean on each other. The beauty of what we've seen in our program, especially the equity side that Lexi spoke to, is that you can have the star quarterback, and then you can have the students that's not involved have the exact trauma, we'll call it trauma, and realize once they get through our program and realize they actually have that in common, they've now become allies for one another. So we're teaching students how to become an ally. We all have little stressors we go through. I think it was said earlier, we all put a mask on sometimes just to get through the day. But when you realize that you have other students around you that you can lean on and just pick up the phone or shoot a text, hey, are you okay? Sometimes that's all that they need to hear is just asking the words, are you okay?
Yeah.
Because sometimes they're not.
Yeah. Do you see as time has gone on, because now, like therapy and conversation on mental health has grown even in the past, like few years, like even 5-6 years ago. I know when I was a collegiate athlete, like nobody really went and saw the mental health professional there, and it would have helped all of us. But it just wasn't a conversation. It wasn't even that it was like taboo or stigmatized. It was just like, we just didn't do it. Have you seen, even in the years since you started, like this more warm reception from your young people about, therapy or conversation or getting more into the emotional intelligence and just sharing emotions?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that we oftentimes go into a classroom trying to inspire, and oftentimes we leave inspired by the students because they are actually speaking out loud about their therapy sessions, or when they're, to your point, when I grew up as a college athlete, we didn't talk about that. That was viewed as a weak thing to talk about. So I find it encouraging to see students today are speaking more proudly about the challenges that they have, the help that they're actually getting, which is actually now bringing down that stigmas for other students to go do the same thing. So I actually think it's been really encouraging to see that piece become a little bit more out in the open to, just to talk about.
Yeah. And so when we do our equity program, on the onset of it, we always do an assessment. So we kind of ask students, like, what are your needs? Like, what would you love to see more at your school? And the number one thing is more mental health services. That was the number one thing across the board from every school we work with. So not only are they talking about it, they're saying they want more. So, I mean, that's something that we always turn over to leadership at every school, is that, hey, your students are asking for more mental health resources. So we're also a tool to leadership at schools to say, hey, your counselors that maybe are only trained for career services, you might want to get them trained in more mental health services because your students are asking for mental health services.
Yeah. That's amazing. I'm so impressed. And I always think like so I like focusing on the young people. I'm here for like all of us, 20, 30, 40s, 50s plus, but also I'm like, forget about all us. Just go to the youth. Like you can teach an old dog new tricks, but the reality is like our kiddos are so far ahead and they're exposed to so much, so early that it's like the focus, like we have to show up and be doing this work because they're ready now when, we were 30, 40, whatever, until we were like starting to facilitate this conversation. So that's really glad to hear. And I'm glad to hear that you're hearing that feedback directly from the schools, because that means it's actually hitting leadership in their seat. They're connected in some capacity. I'm not a teacher, but I coached for 10 years at high school out here after I graduated college, and almost no conversation at this point. This was, I think, 2012 to whatever, 18 or something. I don't know. Like, so, but still, like, this is how far we've gone in this time. So I'm really excited to hear that like the actual leadership, the schools, infrastructures are questioning this. Has your curriculum adapted over this time? Like, have you guys changed things or evolved things, or were you pretty clear from the get-go on how you're going to approach these situations?
Go ahead, Lexi.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously our curriculum, I feel like it is always evolving, right? We're always tweaking things, but for the most part, the core of it's always been the same, right? We're always focusing on that emotional intelligence, because we really firmly believe that emotional intelligence can be taught at any age. Yeah. And the beautiful thing about our program is it's during school hours, right? We are not an after school program because we don't want any student to miss out on this program. And that has been our big cue from the get-go as well, because there's just so many students of, athletes that'll miss out, or kids that have to go home and watch a sibling, or they have to go work. So we've always been touted that this will be an in-school program. And why wouldn't you? I think a lot of schools assume, oh, well, these are things that parents are teaching their students at home. No, you have to teach the mental health side and these emotional intelligence skills in school. It needs to be taught. It's got to be a course, and we're here to fill it.
Yeah.
I also wanted to add to what Lexi said too. You asked if it's ever adapting. A lot of the conversations we had are led by the students. As we've been kind of going through everything this summer, Jamie has always reiterated, these students are going to talk, since you give them that platform, they're going to talk about what they want to. Now that they know that it's not, oh, you're going to get a D on this assignment or anything, they are going to take the conversation and go in a different way. So, and as far as adapting, I think that is one thing that is really beautiful about this, is there is no right or wrong we give the students. It's kind of whatever they see it and what the conversation they bring towards us. So.
Yeah. I think another thing that's really cool too is that our program is age and stage appropriate. So the fun thing is that in my former life, I was at a university teaching professional education and workforce development skills to college or older. And they're the same skills that we're teaching to these kids now, because it doesn't matter if you're 52 or 14. You need to know how to have communication skills. You need to know how to have emotional intelligence. You need to know how to have self-awareness. But I think the beautiful thing about working with this age group is that they are so open to it. And Jamie always says we like to work with the kids because the adults have kind of messed it up, and we don't want to unteach them. So we're going to teach the kids the right way first. Yes. And then we will go ahead and let them flourish into the adults that know how to use those skills from go, instead of having to unlearn maybe what you've already learned and redo it all. So it's really cool to watch how those skills grow with some of our 8th graders that we work with at our middle school that we're connected with into high school. And then after they graduate, it's really cool to watch them develop the skills.
That's so awesome. It sounds, something as you get older, if you're a intentional human, if you've done therapy or coaching or mental training, whatever, so much of it is feeling heard and feeling seen. And it sounds like you guys are such phenomenal listeners that I think if they can experience feeling heard and feeling seen at a young age, you experience that. And then you are in turn inspired to live that way. And then, and be the example for and see and hear other young people. You said that as they graduate, they become ambassadors. Have you guys seen or connected or kept in touch with or further this community once they're out of the program? Or do the kids still keep in touch or anything?
Yeah, we have students that reach out. Actually, we have students that want to come back and work with us. Yeah. So I think that's a testament to the body of work that what we're doing, is that they see the value of giving back to the next generation, and they want to come work with us as a nonprofit I think that's, to me, is a win-win. It's a pat on our back for what we're trying to accomplish. And it's the biggest compliment that I can get is having a student want to come partner with us. So.
Absolutely. You said you've reached over 4,000 students, which is amazing. Congrats to that. And I have no doubt it'll continue to grow. Is there one story for any one of you where it's maybe one kid or one mile marker where it's like that point of success, like a really deep success story that kind of just like keeps you in the game and keeps you fueled that's happened thus far?
For me, there's a student named Billy. He's at one of our charter schools. And the very first day that we introduced our program to this school, he made the comment. He's like, it was so refreshing to see somebody like me talking about what we're talking about as far as leadership development, having a blank canvas that you can create your future on. There's not a lot of minority male teachers in the classrooms here in our community. They might be a coach, they might be a PE teacher, but someone who can stand and teach on a different level and talk about different things. It was refreshing to him. And we recently did a day in life video, thanks to our partners, with SVN, it's a school that we worked with in De La Salle. That's where our intern was held at. So he sees himself now as an educator. Matter of fact, he says he wants to start a nonprofit of his own. So
okay.
That was, to me, like, all right, we're actually giving these kids hope.
Yeah.
So
game changer.
Any other stories? Lexi, you have a story?
Man, like you say that and it's really hard because I love all my students. Yeah. Honestly, I think it's like a tie between Billy, Diamond, and Cubana because they were just phenomenal students and they each had their own unique story. And I think Diamond for me was a really big connection because she kind of had a little bit of a rougher background for me. And I could just feel her energy sometimes when she come to class and it was a little off. And, sometimes I had to pull her to the side and say, hey, like, what's going on? And she's like, I just don't want to talk about it. And I'm like, hey, it's all right. Like, I'm here for you, and sometimes I could be that sounding board for her. And she's like, yeah, I just having a rough time. And I'm like, I get it. We've been there. And I think sometimes, teachers can be so easy to just write students off like, oh, they're just being rude today, instead of realizing, these students have a rough home life sometimes, and giving an extra 2 seconds to a student that, hey, maybe they just need 5 minutes to themselves to just like compose themselves to get back into class, or maybe today's just not the day for them. Just give them a break. So I think that one kind of hit home for me because I can remember days like that for me. So that one's a special one for me.
Any other ones, you guys?
No, like Marissa said, we both just joined in July, so we have not yet been in the classroom with the actual students.
Okay.
But
so it's
I really love Billy's story too. Just the day in the life video, when you hear what it takes for him to get to school, just the track to actual school, it just softens your heart and makes you realize that these kids are so resilient and so tough, and at the same time, like, understand why sometimes, like they said, they have a bad day, and I have a bad day when I get frustrated because my coffee machine won't work, let alone trying to get to, the school because I have to do all the things that they have to. So it's phenomenal to watch them go through those and still come out on the other side in a good mood and successful.
Yeah. I think we can always learn from our kiddos because they really are so tough and so resilient at such a young age. Then you pack in this whole digital situation and it's a whole other animal, but there's so much to take away. And it's so cliche, but you find when you give, you always get back, and it kind of comes full circle. But I think that's just such fuel to live your life and keep you grounded and keep that perspective. Because as you get older, you can make your money, you can get in your routine, everything gets, pretty cushy and complacency can set in, and you got to kick out of that, get your boots back on the ground and get in the mix of what's relevant because, I was talking about natural selection, but you kind of be selected, like you'll be irrelevant and you'll be out of the mix. And that's not really the point of life. So switching gears, I am curious. I do think on my podcast, I always say God, universe, Madonna, whatever you believe. I'm a huge Madonna fan. Like something like is serendipitous, like things line up. And so I'm so excited to find out that I was competing again. And this happened to be our charity, which was right in alignment with my own personal mission and values. How do you guys know, Do More Charity Challenge? How do you know Community Makes Colorado? Like, how did this happen?
So, Nicole at Bank Midwest, we started a partnership with them about a year ago, and they took on one of our interns. And just throughout the time, we got a chance to know not only Nicole, but some of our other team members. And, when things just kind of organically feel right, you just go with it. Mm-hmm. And that's, from the very beginning when I met Nicole, it just felt right. She was authentic. She was open to learning who we are, who I was, and vice versa, coming from banking industry. So we both worked in the same industry. So we had stories around that. But, getting an opportunity just to learn about what was important to her, what was important to her team as far as to align our missions and what we're doing to that bank. It was just a match made in heaven. And I think the rest is history. We look forward to growing that relationship year over year. And we're happy to have this opportunity with you because, I work out every day, but CrossFit is a different animal. So hats off to you.
Yeah, we're crazy. You might though after this, if you get in the mix, you might see it and you'll be like, I think I could do that. And then one class, I'm telling you, my former athletes, it is a slippery slope. You drink the Kool-Aid immediately and that's it. But we'll see. No pressure.
I'm 40. I'm 47 years old. My body doesn't heal the way it used to, so it takes a little longer.
I hear that. Well, I think it's so funny when you talked about intentionality because it's so critical. And all my, most like my type A, my athletes, my mission-driven humans, it's like, here's what we're going to do. Here's the plan. But like the older you get, you realize like God, Universe, Madonna is going to be like, no, actually, there is larger order here, whatever you believe. Like there's not only so much you can control. So I think it's really important, like to see when stuff like this just happens to line up and you just said like, it just felt right or it felt authentic. Like I always try and remind myself mostly, but like my, hard charger is that like, let's do all the things we can, but also like, just keep the faith that if you're showing up and you're in alignment and you're doing the right thing, like the right things will come in. And that's honestly how I feel even about this. Like, I'm so excited when they said the charity, and any charity we play for is amazing, but I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly, what the path is. So this is so cool. So I'm pumped to meet you guys in person and convert you to CrossFitism eventually. But so are you guys, is everybody a former athlete in some capacity?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Everyone on this call is a former athlete in some capacity.
That's my favorite. Okay. Well, that's amazing. We've got about 12 minutes. I want to make sure we cover anything. Do you guys want to share anything that's like coming up, inspirational stories, something that really drives home what you guys are all about?
So October 14th, we're having our second annual POAC Succeed golf tournament. We're really excited about that. Last year we had we filled the field. We had over 144 golfers. It was a 85-degree day in October. It was just probably one of the best golf weather days you can get in Missouri. So we're crossing fingers and toes that we get the same result. But our fundraising that we do goes to all the charter schools that we work with. So we basically do our work in charter schools at no cost to them, because a lot of the schools, they don't have the budget, so they don't do certain programs. So we want to take that burden off of them and offer our services to them for free. Mm-hmm. So that's one reason why we do our fundraising, to help raise dollars and cents for that community, that population of students. So Lexi, anything else in regards to fun, exciting you want to share?
We always have a Kentucky Derby Gala. That's always in May. Cool. It's always fun. You get to come dressed up, wear a fun hat. But obviously as a nonprofit, we're always looking for funding. So always accepting donations on our website. We also have a POAC channel on YouTube. So we have our 2-day in the life videos for students. If your listeners ever want to go see what those look like. Every year we're trying to highlight a special student. So obviously this year we'll try to identify 1 or 2 students and do another one. So go check out our POAC page on YouTube, link up with us on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. You can kind of follow our journey. We always try to post out little clippets and videos of students who've gone through the equity program and kind of how they felt about it, and the real world learning program. So follow our journey. And we always have a tagline of where strangers become friends.
Yeah. I love that. I did see your guys' YouTube page, and this is, social media and internet gets a bunch of bad rap, but as a small business owner and someone that kind of was coming up as social media was taken off, the upside is accessibility, and you can connect. And even if you're, a small business in Colorado or a small nonprofit in Missouri, like you can connect and get involved and see a day in the life. Like that is the upside of this, is you can, connect from people all over and see what's going on and get involved in causes. Do you guys have any sort of involvement outside of the state?
Right now our sole focus is the Kansas City region,
Sure.
But I think my big picture vision is kind of that domino effect. I would love to have other neighboring cities and states reach out to us in Kansas City asking the question, what are you guys doing? Because something's working. We feel your energy. So I think in the years to come, I can see the brand expanding to other cities. But, we want to also create ambassadors so that whether we're there or not, or they hear you on your podcast, wear the t-shirt like you have, they can create their own POAC community. Again, the word POAC is a representation of community. So, but yeah, to a long-term vision, we will most definitely probably expand. It's just right now we're digging in deep here in our Kansas City community and trying to make it the best city that we can. And as these students go out and grow up, and maybe they go out into different cities, that they can still carry the same values that they've learned.
I love it. Yeah, I totally understand focusing and getting it really dialed in. There's always so much to do. However, as I said in my initial email to you guys, you guys were like, who is this human? But I would love to be an ambassador or involved, or even if something small from the get-go. Denver's obviously a thriving community, and there's a lot of good awareness happening in a lot of our cities out here, but Colorado's moving. Anyways, so as things grow, please do keep me in the back of your mind of how we can support the cause, or I don't know, get kids into CrossFit. I'm just kidding. I'm not even like a full ambassador of CrossFit, but I'm a big believer in movement and our young people moving and whatever that means. But yes, please put us on our backlog. So I would love to see this continue to grow. And it seems like it's scalable, not to sound like a super business human, but like you can replicate this all over. So I'm really excited to watch your journey and see how this intentionally and manifest the energy continues to grow, and see, the future impact.
Well, thank you. And you're right. It takes a lot of energy. And once that energy gets rolling, get out of the way because change is coming.
There you go.
One way or the other.
That's what's up. All right. So hit me with, I'll put this in our notes, but give me any website, Instagram handles, anything where people can find you.
So our website's POACSucceed.com, POAC Succeed.com. Our Facebook page is just POAC Succeed. You can find it that way. And then on our Instagram is POAC_Succeed. And you can find us on the Instagram channel as well. And then LinkedIn's the same, POAC Succeed. You can look at me personally. You'll find it connected to me that way. But all those channels is where we share our stories, because, again, it's important for us not to share our own personal stories, but to share the stories of the next generational leaders that we want all communities to see. So,
yes. And if people really want to be involved, we also have a newsletter that they can subscribe to and get into their email box, where we highlight a student and kind of show them all the things that we're doing day to day. And you get to hear those student stories, which are great too, because people really just get the heartstrings on those ones.
Yes. The human side. I appreciate the brand consistency. I have to give you guys a gold star there. But I think the human side is so overlooked, particularly in the corporate space. And it's so disconnected, and people, you don't need to see the full mess, but people want to see the human side. They want to hear about where you came from, how I can connect to you, how my story, even if we look completely different, our stories might actually be somewhat similar. And it's amazing. I don't know who said it early on, but everyone has a story. It's the truth. Like, you never really know who's carrying what or what someone's going through. And there's so much more that we have in common that we don't. And I think if we can, as you guys say, get comfortable and like that uncomfortable and have that courageous conversation, we can make real waves of change. Is there any like one quote? I'm a big quote human, but does anybody have like one quote or a good piece of advice you want to leave us with before we wrap up?
One of the things I always tell the students is that, you can't change the world, but you can change your world. Mm-hmm. And by changing your world, it's a ripple effect out. So I think it starts individually. If you change your world and how you see people and treat people, it will eventually change the world. So it's a ripple effect.
There you go.
Yeah, we give people the iceberg analogy, and that's what Jamie's talking about. That get to know the 90% of people, and you'll be amazed at the stories you'll find connections with.
Truth. Do you guys, anyone else? No pressure if not, it's okay.
My favorite quote is the man in the arena quote.
Oh, yes, that's my favorite. Yes, I'm here for it.
That's my favorite.
Yes.
You know, and if anybody doesn't know that, please go look up Theodore Roosevelt or Brene Brown, one of the two. But, you know, the man who counts is the one who's in the arena with you, marred by dirt and mud and blood and, you know, feeling the same things you are. And so that's a lot of what we do is we're in the arena with the kids trying to understand their feelings. And we're all human. So get in the arena together.
Yes. And it's better you're beat up than the souls that don't know victory or defeat. I'm so here for it. Like, even if you're kicked down and you feel like it's nothing, at least you have lived in some capacity. And that's really what it's about. So, yep. And I also think Eleanor wrote that, but it's okay. We'll leave it as a whole other podcast. But I was going to give a shout out to E. So that's that. But I really appreciate you guys. I'm so excited to meet you in person. If you're listening to this, come watch for us. Come cheer for us. There's way more pressure now that I know you guys. So that's great. But the training is real. And it's, like I said, it's nice to like train and compete on behalf of something that you genuinely believe in and are inspired by. So I feel privileged there to represent you guys. If there's anything I can do in the meantime, let me know, but I appreciate the time and energy. And as simple as it sounds, I'm just so excited to meet people like you guys that are doing what you do. And it's so mission driven and heart led. I truthfully think that's obviously what our world needs, but it's really impacting. It's really working. It's really doing something.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity and best of luck to you. And we'll be rooting from Kansas City for you.
Thanks, you guys. I appreciate it. Be sure to go check out everything they have going on. I'll have all the links and everything in the bio. And come see us on September 10th if you're in Castle Rock, Colorado. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you for joining Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Tune in next time, and don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.